Hey guys, it's Tuesdays here on Paperboy with Shel. I'm sorry I'm a little under the weather. Got a cough drop here. This week we're talking about raising a family. I have a 9-year-old son. We call him Spud. We have called him Spud since he was 2. I'm not going to be able to hold that up there that long. Just going to have a double chin. His name is Chandler. He now goes by Kai because it's a long story, but that's what he was going to be named. And when he found that out, he decided he would go by Kai. But I used to call him, well, I didn't even call him Spud. I would just say, me and the little Spud are going to go, to the store or whatever. If I was on the phone with Amy, my wife, or whomever, I would say, me and the little Spud. And I guess he picked up on it when he was 2. At one time I said, Chandler, go do something. And he looked at me and said, I not Chandler, I Spud. So ever since then, and he's 9 now, he's been Spud. But it's been a challenge. I never wanted to have kids, never wanted to have kids of my own. Never had that yearning to be a mom, or to be a dad, considering my transition. But every woman I was with, except for one, had kids. My ex, 2 exes ago, which doesn't say much about me in relationships, but 2 exes ago, she had a son, and he turned 11 right after we got together, and I left when he was 16, but I stayed in his life for a few years. When he was 18, he joined the Navy, and he put me on the list to go see him graduate, and I went with his mom, my ex-girlfriend, and her new girlfriend and sister to see him graduate from boot camp for the Navy. And then we just kind of stopped talking, but then he went off to the Navy. He and I had the sort of a love-hate relationship. He wasn't used to an authority figure because his mom was not authoritative with him. And so I would ground him. I told him to respect people. I didn't like the way he talked to adults. And so from the 5 years I was in his life, I made an impact because before he went to the Navy, he came over to see me. And he said, Shelly, I know that you used to get on to me to introduce authority in my life. And he said, I can honestly say you're the first person that ever made me feel like I should respect authority, and I know why you did that now, and I appreciate it, and that made me feel amazing. So it matters what you do with kids. Then I was with a woman who had grown sons. One was 18 and one was 22 when we got together. And of course they were grown, but they were only grown in age. They depended on her with so much, and I told myself then, I was like, I don't have the capacity and the understanding to be a parent. Never wanted to be a parent. I will never, ever get with another woman that has kids. Wrong. I end up getting with one that has a baby in diapers, which he wasn't a baby, he was 2, but he wasn't potty trained, and he just turned 2. So he was like a year and 10 months when me and his mom started sort of flirting and talking. And I remember one night I went over there and I stayed the night with him when we were dating, and he started crying in his bed next to her, and I picked him up and laid him on my chest, and she sat up and said, what am I supposed to do? I was like, I guess go back to sleep. But it's been a challenge. The thing about raising a family is, I know Ty can weigh in on this, is you don't get alone time. You don't get to be a couple. You have to put your kid first, and there's so many things you can't do. We've been invited to dinner parties. We've wanted to go to drag shows. There's just been a number of things that we've wanted to do that we can't do because we have a child. And one thing about raising a family, there's that whole saying about it takes a village. We don't have a support team. We don't have a support system. Our family lives far away from us, and even when we did live close to family, they would only keep him every so often. We've never had a steady babysitter. We're involved in a church now, but we really don't have any friends where we live because we both worked from home for a long time, and I still work from home. And when you do that, it's a we live in the DFW area of Texas. You can't plug in because usually you make relationships through your work relationships, your coworkers. So I'm saying all this to say it's tough to raise a kid. Spud has been diagnosed with a couple of things that causes him to be kind of high maintenance and insecure and needs to be around us a lot. And so I have been looking forward to him getting big enough to where we can leave him at home by himself when he's 13, which I think is the legal age, so that Amy and I can be a couple. One of the things we've talked about in counseling is 90% of our relationship is spent being parents rather than being a couple and getting to concentrate on our marriage. So it's something to think about. If you're considering having kids, just remember you don't get couple time. I mean, he's kept us up at night. He cried through the night until he was 4. Drove me crazy. I would wake up and say, "Why are you crying?" "I don't know." And I'm like, if you don't know why you're crying, stop crying. You're waking me up. And I would try to plug in, but Amy would be like, "It's your turn, it's your turn." And I'm like, it doesn't wake me up when I have plugs in. It wakes you up and bothers you. It doesn't bother me. But, it's tough. Never mind the financial cost of raising a family. So, I mean, I feel like I live a fuller life, having a wife and a son, and I can't imagine my life without them. And I never dreamed I would be in this kind of parent role that I am. I mean, I've cleaned up his puke and diapers and taught him how to read and worked with homework, brushed his teeth, given him baths, taught him how to shower, teach him right from wrong, teach him about Jesus, teach him about the Bible, walk him through relationships at school because he's gotten bullied. I never saw myself being a parent in the status that I am. And when we sat him down when he was 7 and told him about my transition, he's like, "Can I call you Dad?" And I said, because he's always wanted to know about his dad. His dad never wanted to be a part of his life. My wife outreached to the father of him when she was still pregnant, and he said, "I want to terminate my rights," before he even knew he was having a boy, and Spud is his only boy, but he's never been in his life. So Spud yearns to have a dad, and he said, "Can I call you Dad?" And I said, "You can. You don't have to, but you can." But you could tell it's still a struggle for him to see me as male, which, me being non-binary and not wanting to let go of Shelley in some regard and let go of being his other mom and let go of being Amy's wife, it keeps it confusing for him, I know. Amy's told him, we really need to start calling Mama Shelley Shel so that everybody else isn't confused, because, he's trying to transition, and sometimes when we've prayed, Amy has used the pronoun he, and sometimes when we pray, she says she, so it's really confusing. I feel like I live in limbo land, and I don't know that that's going to change because I do feel in between worlds. I'm not ready to let go all the way of Shelley, and I'm not ready to fully embrace Shel, but I'm still going by Shel. And I've had top surgery, which I'm super proud of, and I've had a second T consult, and now I know I can do a low dose, and that makes me more prone to do it, and so we'll see what happens with the changes then. But yeah, raising a family's hard. It's a lot of work. You're making a commitment to not have a lot of self-time, you time. Me and Amy have to give each other you time, where she'll go out of the house for a couple hours, and I'm here with Spud, or I'll go out of the house a couple hours, and she's here with him. Like, I just went to see my family for 3 days because we've been going through a lot, and I needed a break. I just needed to not have to be responsible and just do me, and it felt great. So raising a family's hard. We've been trying to work on date nights, but it's just my income right now, and so when you have one income, and I've been on short-term disability, it's kind of hard because I've been living through my inheritance. So it's kind of hard for that too. You can't really have a date night if you don't have a support system, because who's going to keep your kid? So we've utilized the nighttime daycare center once, and I want to continue to do that, but we really can't afford it. So anyway, raising a family is very fulfilling. You have someone that you always belong to. You come home and your house is full of energy and life and activity, but then you also think, if I didn't have to think about them, like my son, and Amy and I could go a lot of places. We have to sort of filter where we go, because we have to keep him in mind, because if he doesn't want to do it, it's miserable to hear him whining and crying about, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this is boring, you know? So, anyway, I'm probably saying more negatives than positives, but my life has been fuller than it's ever been. It's also been more exhausting than it's ever been. But I know that God put me in that little boy's life to make a difference, and I have made a difference to him, and my motto with him is none of my DNA, but all of my influence. And so that's what I try to do, is influence him in the way that I was raised, and raise him up right, so he's a good, productive part of society when he gets to be a grown man. And so anyway, that's my take. I look forward to all you guys and what you have to say. Hope everybody has a good week. Peace.